Good morning, mushrooms, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, brothers, sisters, mothers, misters, and to all my cousins out there. It's time to plug in and get this train chugging. Ta-da! A mystery probe of the Trump campaign cache. And that mystery probe has been revealed. Ooh, exciting. A probe is an investigation. It can also be a physical thing that you send, for example, the Huygens probe that we sent off into outer space to explore the nether regions of our solar system. However, in this case, if you are probing something, you are investigating it. You're poking it and prodding it and picking it apart, breaking it down into its constituent pieces to see what is going on. Let's learn more in the caption below. 3 years, feds have chased a suspected foreign link to Trump's $10 million donation in 2016. That is a hefty chunk of change, as we like to say. And they managed to conduct this investigation, this probe, chasing down these foreign links with extraordinary secrecy. If it is a secret. Yes, you might be sworn to secrecy, right? You shouldn't tell anybody. Extraordinary. Extra meaning more. And not more ordinary, that just means boring. But this means extra, extraordinary, super duper, double secret, yeah? And if you're chasing something, much like a man who steals your purse and then goes running down the street, you might chase after and try to catch them. In this case, they're chasing them down. It's not literal, it's figurative, but they're going after things, trying to find it, trying to grab it, trying to catch it, because foreign donations to a presidential campaign, that's a little bit fishy. That's a little bit suspicious. Something smells. I can tell you that. Let's move on. Republicans have injected new chaos into the election. Ooh, chaos, anarchy, no rules, everything's going crazy. And they have injected it. They have, much like when you're going to get that vaccine someday, they're going to probably inject it into your arm with a needle, with a syringe. And so that's just a fancy way for saying adding something into a situation. But they are defying his attempts to call it. They are going against it. If you defy orders, defy laws, it means you're going in flagrant opposition to them, not following the rules, breaking the rules, bending the rules. They're waiting in line to vote in person to just kind of say, "Hiya!" And I give this gesture to you because we're going to see a headline about a similar gesture down below. Let's move on. Trump is now openly begging for votes. It's true. At one of his rallies, he was saying, "Why don't you like me? Just please vote for me." Talking to basically suburban housewives or suburban women. Well, he begged for money, begged for love, begged for support. Let's see, beg for someone to do something. Yes, please, 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 please. Because he actually had carried white, Midwestern, suburban women by a significant percentage in the 2016 election. However, those numbers have been decreasing. They've been dwindling. That support has been waning. Ooh, we'll see that word down below as well. Let's move on. A rough ride. It's not going to be smooth sailing. It's going to be choppy waters. It's going to be a rough ride over rough terrain, a rocky road, all of different imagery and figurative speech to say that things are going to get tough for him. Things are going to be difficult. Let's move on. Fox News portrayed it as one of the biggest scandals in U.S. history, and then the whole thing just fell apart. To portray something is to, well, think about it, a portrait. To portray somebody. If you paint a portrait of somebody, it is portraying them. However, when we're talking in the news, we're usually talking about a description. And so it was describing this situation as a scandal, as one of the biggest and the worst in U.S. history. Yes, you can portray something in a positive light or a negative light. However, in this case, they were trying to make it look like an enormous scandal, the biggest in U.S. history. And then with a little bit of probing, a little bit of poking and prodding and picking, the whole thing fell apart and turned out to be what has become popularly known as a big fat nothing burger. All right, moving on. Americans have been freed from captivity in Yemen. So we got to reduce present perfect passive there. These Americans have been freed by whom? Well, by the people who were holding them captive. They were being held captive. So yes, they were in captivity, much like animals in zoos are in captivity. They were in custody, being detained, maybe even in jail. Good luck to you guys. Moving on to the Concord Ski, this Soviet version of supersonic passenger flight, and it crashed and burned, quite literally crashed and burned in a air show near Paris, if I'm not mistaken. I think in the early 70s. However, crashed and burned. It was quite literal with this. However, then it did resume commercial flights, and as a commercial venture, eventually failed. And this little phrase, crashed and burned, although it is literal for this, it's also figurative for this. And we use this phrase now, much like the literal version for planes, for any sort of commercial venture. If it fails, we say that it crashes and burns. Nice, very visual vocabulary and figurative phrase to describe failure. All right, moving on to something a little bit more amusing, comical, dare I say. A woman makes a shocking gesture on a Berlin tourism ad. I highly suggest you click on this link because it's a great picture, or just go to Berlin because you'll see pictures of this advertisement on public transportation. Spoiler alert here, it's a grandma wearing a mask. She's probably like 75 years old and she's just flipping it off, and it says, "Wear a mask, follow the rules." I dig it. Berlin, always a little bit gritty and in your face, but well, that's one of the best ways to keep the citizenry safe. That's about it. Let's move on. Back to Thailand. Thailand has announced an emergency decree. A decree is a proclamation, some sort of basically making a statement which therefore should be obeyed. It's not technically a law, but just like the Paris governor, the governor of Paris, if I'm not mistaken, has issued a decree that all citizens must be home from 9 p.m. at night till 6 in the morning. That's right. They have decreed a new quarantine curfew, basically. And so here, it's an emergency decree, but why? Not because of COVID, but to quell those pro-democracy protests. As we saw in the headlines yesterday, what was once sacrosanct or too important to be changed or fiddled with, so to speak, was the monarchy. However, now people are fed up with everything. They've had it up to here, if not here, and so these protests have been breaking out and increasing in intensity. And the government is trying to quell these protests. I'll give you a clue. That's not helping the protests. They're trying to squash them out of existence. To quell is a verb that means to stop, but stop something. For example, protests, riots, etc. Usually something violent, to stop that. You think of stopping violence as a good thing, but in this case, it's usually done by some sort of authoritarian institution trying to stop some more positive actions. Yeah. All right, on to the dangerous monkeys. We had a similar headline yesterday about a tourist hotspot in Thailand, and they're having trouble because they're struggling with the monkey population. They are grappling with the problem, and the monkeys, and it's because, yes, they are rampaging. They are running rampant. They're everywhere, and they're out of control, and they look scary, if you ask me. And from what I understand, monkey bites are not a nice thing. You can get all sorts of diseases. And so how do you deal with an exploding or surging monkey population? Especially in a semi-ethical or humane fashion. I mean, you can't just go around shooting them or poisoning them. I don't know. If anybody's got any ideas out there, let me know and I'll pass it along to the city council in Thailand. All right, whatever. Richard Quest recovered from COVID and thought he was safe. However, yes, that immunity can wear off because his antibodies are waning. Now, we've got two verbs, to wax and to wane. And I'm not talking Karate Kid like wax on, wax off with cars. But when we're thinking about the cycles of the moon, as the moon is getting larger and fuller, we say that the moon is waxing. And as the moon is shrinking, we say that it is waning. Much like if Well, so waning is fading or getting smaller over time. Much like if you don't use your English, your vocabulary will eventually begin to wane. Much like this guy's antibodies, slowly but surely disappearing or becoming less effective. And that's why, yes, you should tune into the show so your vocabulary does not dissipate. It does not ebb, it does not wane, it does not diminish. You can keep boosting it, lifting it, pushing it up, folks. Moving on though. Some more sad news, a decade of environmental decay along the Ganges. Decay is to slowly break down organically due to natural forces, much like leaves on the forest floor. After the winter, in the springtime, due to the rain and the exposure to the elements, the leaves begin to decay and disintegrate, providing nutrition to the forest floor and the plants and animals that grow and live there. However, this environment is just, this is environmental decay. The environment is basically breaking down and falling apart along, what do they say, Ganga Ma, Mother Ganges. Now, we can intentionally break something down to inspect the constituent pieces and parts, aspects of it, or things can just break down. And that means stop working, to decay, to disintegrate. Yeah? All right. Last one here, lockdown. Drastic lockdown, extreme measures, or a slow drip feed of COVID restrictions. One path, one choice is better for the economy, that's for sure. Completely closing businesses or a drip feed, much like when you're in the hospital. Thank you, Zdenek. Just noticed my diamonds there. If you get the IV in your arm, you're laying in your bed, the heart monitor is going beep, beep, and then you got the bag of saline solution that's slowly drip by drip, feeding that liquid drip by drip into your arm. And so a drip feed implies slow and steady progress in one direction or another. Don't need to take the drastic, harsh actions of a complete lockdown, but we can do it bit by bit, step by step, to see what works, as opposed to just whew, the economy and businesses and workers, everybody along that path suffers. Alrighty then. And so that was that for the news today. We'll be back again tomorrow with another edition of Breaking Down the News, and in the evening we'll be doing the crossword. Please do click the like, follow, subscribe, little bell notification icon to make sure you don't miss anything. Lions and tigers and bears, oh my! And have a beautiful day. If I don't see you sooner, 8 a.m. tomorrow. Bye-bye. Let's see if I can actually stop the stream on time this time. Yes, indeed. I am sure I'd like to stop the stream. Thank you for asking. Bye-bye.